Thank you all for joining us, and we're going to start off by everybody introduce themselves. So I'll go off mute when I've introduced myself, and then we'll go, well, I just wade in. Right, I'm Carolyn Harris, I'm one of the co-chairs of the group. Thanks all for joining.
I'm Judith Cummins, I'm Bradford South MP and also co-chair of the group. Hello everybody.
Carolyn, do you want to say who should speak next? Because we're all at different places on the screen.
Okay, Nick Smith.
Hi, Nick Smith from Blair and Gwent, and secretary to the group. I'm very pleased to see you all.
Ian Egerton.
Hi, my name's Ian and I'm the president of the National Hair and Beauty Federation, salon owner in London Bridge. Lovely to meet you.
And you. Lesley Blair.
Hi there, chair of BABTAC and SIBTAC. Lovely to see you all.
Caroline Larissey.
Hi, Caroline Larissey, Director of Quality and Standards at the National Hair and Beauty Federation.
Lisa Gerrard.
Hi there, I'm Lisa Gerrard, Managing Director of Gerrard International and also Chair of the BCA, which is the Beauty Companies Association.
Victoria.
Victoria, there's two Victorias here. This is Victoria McNish from Interella, Secretariat of the APPG.
Catherine.
I'm Catherine at Morgan, even though my name says Salon, and I work with Carolyn and Victoria doing the Secretariat, and Louise, the Secretariat of the APPG.
Helena. Oh. You're on mute.
Still mute. I tried to unmute, must have muted again. It's a good start, wasn't it? I'm Helena Graggs. I'm the General Manager at the UK Spa Association. So really grateful to be here with you all today. Thank you for your time.
And we're very grateful for you coming. Louise.
Hi, I'm Louise Abraham, also Secretary at the APPG. Nice seeing you all.
Kerry Stewart. Kerry Stewart.
Hi, I'm Kerry. I'm Director of Hannah May Hair and Beauty in Ilminster and Somerset. Thank you for having me here today.
Jo Jones.
Hiya, hello, I'm Jo Jones. I am the founder of a hygiene property charity called Beauty Banks, and I'm a full-time PR and brand builder in beauty.
And Joanne Lloyd.
Hi, I'm Jo from Carolyn's office. I'm on here twice because I'm trying to record on one and watch on another, so hopefully it works.
And Victoria Brownlee.
Hello, I'm Victoria Brownlee. I'm Director of Public Affairs and Policy at the National Hair and Beauty Federation, and I'm just here in a observing capacity, so please ignore me.
Brilliant. Thanks ever so much. So the panelists are today will be Caroline Larissey, Ian Egerton, Helena, Lesley Blair, Lisa Gerrard and Kerry Stewart. So this is your opportunity to tell us what's happened to the industry during COVID and lockdown. I, for one, am absolutely desperate for salons and spas to reopen because I'm on the home die now and I am desperate to have a trim and my stress levels are through the roof. I've not even seen a masseur for months and I am absolutely desperate for this industry to get back on its feet. But me aside, it's really important that especially Les, especially Judith and Nick and I understand where you are as an industry, what contribution you've been able to do during the COVID crisis. Have, for example, you've been able to do anything around PPE and supporting the initiatives that are out there? What, in terms of your own businesses, how difficult it's been for you in retention and furlough and how you see recovery at the end of all this. So if we start with Caroline, so if you could all give sort of 3 minutes and then we will ask you some questions based on what you've said and what we need to know. So we'll start with Caroline, if you don't mind.
No worries, thank you. I think one of the things worth mentioning to start with, you know, there's 250,000 people that work in the hair and beauty sector. You know, there's 43,000 businesses out there. you know, and the income that we generate towards our industry is unbelievable. I think it's safe to say that everybody is being, you know, affected by the coronavirus. As part of that, what we did as an industry organisation is we actually put a survey out there to our members. We've got over 5,000 salons as our members, and we had 2,000 responses. And the biggest worry that came from our responses was PPE. What type of PPE we need, you know, where we're going to get it from, how we're going to get it, and how we're going to actually maintain that social distancing in a salon. Because what you have to remember is hair and beauty businesses are generally small and micro businesses, and therefore they don't have the salon space to be able to do that as part of that. They were worried on when the announcement would come, if they would have enough warning from government to prepare themselves as part of that. And again and again and again, it was PPE. What type of face mask? Do we need medical grade face masks? But also there was different worries as well about premises being unoccupied, you know, keeping engaged with clients, making sure those clients knew what was happening as part of that. And also, we've all had the reports on the news over the last couple of days about, you know, the black economy, about the back door salons opening, about, you know, the police raids, about the mobile therapists going around doing people's hair and putting people at risk as part of that. What the NHS have been doing is we've actually been working with the government to support to develop guidance. We've been working with the Department of Education and the Skills Funding Agency to make sure, you know, the apprenticeship side of things is done as part of that. We've been checking on our industry, seeing if anybody's okay. I mean, we recently put a hearts thing on Instagram, and it was amazing how many people that actually came back and said, you know, we're really, really worried. We're really, really frightened for our businesses going forward. There's been a lot of government support out there, which has been well received by the sector. But of course, you've got a lot of mobiles out there that people that don't declare or what they're actually taking within the business as part of that. I think the clear thing is we need clear government guidance. We need to be able to have timelines that will be able to pull our sector back together to deliver it safe within salons. As part of that. But I think one of the key things is thinking about the well-being of not just the public out there, because the public, as you say, are crying out for them having their hair done. You know, we're not just the hairdresser, we're not just the beauty therapist, we're the counsellor, you know, we're the people that you go to. And I think that's what people are really, really missing out there. But also we need to think about the well-being of the people that's actually delivering the treatments as well, because it's going to be very difficult to come back from this from businesses.
Okay, thank you for that, Caroline. Ian, we're going to come to you next. I'm just reading here that you've got a business on London Bridge, so it must be really strange at the moment to be in London. Or what? Do you live in London?
I do.
It must be quite eerie to be there and see a thriving place like that in so much lockdown. Over to you then, Ian, to say a few words.
Thank you very much. So what I've done is I've taken your questions quite literally. I've answered them, and I'm going to be as brief as I can, but it will pack the 3 minutes. So forgive me whilst I read from a document, because I know time is precious. So you asked what was the impact coronavirus and the lockdown period had on the industry so far. The industry is largely made up of micro businesses with limited cash flow, so money in, money out, which is quite normal. So there will be financial hardship on multiple levels. 56% of people in the beauty and wellness sector are self-employed. Owners, directors of small limited companies are not eligible for any meaningful financial support. And if we are, we can't work. Long-term impact, if it continues, obviously more businesses will fail due to a lack of funds. In some areas like my salon, local offices workers are told to work from home. So we may not see a return to normal client numbers or income for months or even until 2022. And finally, the big unknown, of course, is the financial crisis that will follow. The effectiveness of government support. The response has been good for many, with grants and payroll covered through the furlough scheme. There are others like me who are not eligible for any funding because our rates are too high, and indeed many London hair and beauty salons will have suffered the same issue as rates are above the 51,000 threshold. Also, in my case, we were not eligible for local government funding from Southwark Council. There is nothing for those who fall through the cracks except furloughing staff and a loan, to which I have applied for the bounce back loan on Monday and first thing, and I'm yet to hear anything back from HSBC. What difficulties will the industry face, and what support will will be needed from the government? So close contact services like massage and facials are likely to suffer simply from a proximity point of view. The cost of PPE, whilst we're unsure what PPE is required, the expectation would be to provide staff and clients with masks, hand sanitizer, tissues, disposable towels, gowns, and pretty much everything and anything disposable. General beauty treatment related. The social distancing, disinfecting treatment areas and equipment, allowing extra time for services. In our case, we've added 15 minutes to every treatment to allow for sanitizing and safe movement of clients and staff. This will result in hours of unsold time, reducing the capacity to generate income, as well as adding additional costs. The government should consider a varied approach to support measures to ensure businesses have the best opportunity to survive. The reduced rate of VAT for a period of time on services and potentially down to 10%, continue to pay a proportion of the furlough scheme until March 2021 to give us time to recover, revisit their funding scheme for businesses that fell through the cracks, simply raise the business rates should help, certainly in larger cities. Government to set a task force to ensure public safety around PPE supply chains, ensuring that they are reliable and available at a fair price to businesses before we have to reopen, because at the moment the market is ridiculous. Government should give business owners greater protection from landlords. And are there ways in which the beauty industry can support the NHS? Potentially, as an industry, we can give back to frontline workers by government allowing salons to return 1 week ahead of expected trading as a soft opening to do the hair and beauty and wellness services of frontline workers. This will be a useful exercise to educate the hair and beauty industry on how to engage with the public when they do return. During this time, government would continue to pay full furlough allowance, and it would be voluntary for staff to take part. As the government considers the exit strategies, what safeguards need to be in place, a COVID-19 risk assessment of every treatment should be carried out, and this should be standardized and will be supplied by the NHBF if it's required. Treatment plans should be amended to ensure a consistent standard of care is given, designed to protect both staff and client. Track and trace data for every client to be stored, potentially. There we go. That is my brief.
Thank you. That was really, really comprehensive, Ian, and thank you for that. And I can see that Dr. Lisa Cameron, MP, has joined us. So hi, Lisa. So we're on our third speaker, and we'll be asking questions when we've heard from all the speakers, Lisa. Lesley, can you take it away?
Yes, of course I can. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to look from some notes as well, because I think anyone who knows me knows that I do go on a bit, so I'll try and keep it short and sweet to keep it within the 3 minutes. So I think that, you know, we're all aware the impact of the lockdown has been absolutely crippling to the entire beauty and hair treatment sector, which I think you all again know that is worth 6.6 billion. Those figures are based on an economic impact assessment that we were involved in last year with the Hair and Barbara Council. This does not include product sales at all, so this financial impact reflects 100% of earnings. So for every month this inability to operate goes on, that's, you know, the effect that it's having on earnings for people. We are one of the only industries to be supporting the high streets decline, so the impact is far wider than just our industry itself. I think, as Caroline said, the contribution to our industry provides consumers' own morale and mental and physical wellness. So we can't underestimate that either, because this is a kind of big support for a lot of people, especially I think a lot of the shielded categories out there. I think, you know, there's no doubt that a large portion of our industry are benefiting right now from the grants, loans and furlough schemes on offer, which we are very, very grateful. However, there are some discrepancies that affect those who fall outside the parameters. The furlough scheme doesn't take into account owners who may be limited companies who earn dividends only. So this means that some businesses who are contributing the most to the economy may actually not survive. And these businesses were thriving before, providing employment of large numbers of staff. So potentially the fallout from this, you know, if they have to close, could be absolutely huge. Now, in the opposite of Ian's situation, we've had very, very good feedback about the bounce back loan with a lot of our members, because we've also been out to our members. We've got over 10,000 members in the beauty industry, and a lot of them who have applied have come back and said that they have had the money agreed and funds in their account within 24 hours of initial application, which I think is absolutely fantastic. I think Santander and Bank of Scotland have been amazing in their turnaround of this. That's two names that I've definitely heard over the last few days. The difficulties facing our industry are immense. There is literally no way for us to comply with the social distancing rule, regardless of which treatment we are performing. But as already mentioned, the industry will not survive if we have an indefinite lockdown. So we need to minimise the risks, and what we desperately need, and I think from what has come across, and I think Caroline, you kind of touched on this as well, that we need fit for purpose and very clear guidelines on how the industry is expected to practice after lockdown, to ensure maximum safety and minimum confusion or any indeed room for misinterpretation. We need to have a level playing field out there, and I think people are crying out for rules rather than advice because of the severity of this situation, so that they are providing safety for their staff, themselves, and of course their customers, and to make customers feel safe to come to their salon, spa, etc. If this lockdown is going to continue in our industry for longer than others, which we fully expect to be the case, unfortunately, for all these ladies and gentlemen who want their grooming needs fulfilled, we would like to know if there will be additional financial assistance, extended furloughs, and provision for partial furloughs too. PPE provides an enormous challenge of its own. During lockdown, we have strongly encouraged all of our members to donate their stocks to the NHS, and many of them have supported this campaign, because I think, you know, at the end of the day, at this present moment, the NHS and care workers, etc., they are in desperate need of as much PPE they can get, and we're trying to save lives here. However, when our salons and spas, mobile therapists, nail salons, whatever, actually do reopen, given the nature of our business and the inability to maintain social distancing parameters, there is absolutely no doubt that some form of PPE will be required for all practicing therapists. How can we get the government to assist us in ensuring our salons can best equip themselves without negatively impacting supplies that are so imperative to the NHS and the frontline workers? And I think that's very, very important. Now, I also have details of a large salon who has been in contact with me, who has been really, really affected by this lack of support from the government financially. And I've got all the details, Caroline and Judith, and I'm going to pass that to you so that we've got it. They've written to their MPs, etc. Not really got anywhere, but I think it's really good for you to see exactly what's going on and what is going on. This is just, I think, a bit like Ian. This is somebody in the business who has got a large salon, who is employing a lot of people, and really, really important for the economy going forward. And I think I'll just reiterate a lot what Caroline said, of the questions that we've had from our members. It's PPE, when are we going to get back, the furlough scheme, you know, any other funds. You know, we've had literally probably thousands of replies, but it's maybe 7 or 8 different questions because everyone is asking the same thing. So thank you.
Thank you. That's fine, Lesley. And I want to come back, not now, but later on, I want to come back on how many bigger businesses there are, like Ian's, who wouldn't have had any of the government support. Helena, I'm not saying your last name because I'm afraid I'm going to get it wrong. So I'm not saying it.
That's fine. Don't worry at all. Thank you. you know, I'm going to echo much of what's already been said by Caroline and Lesley and Ian, of course, but we at the UK Spa Association really recognise the impact that COVID-19 has had on our sector. You know, similarly, we've got a survey running at the moment, and 92.4% of our participants have stated that they having, you know, received a severe or significant impact on their business, with a third anticipating the need to make redundancies once reopened without the correct financial support measures in place. And that, for me, has been a statistic that has really been quite frightening for me to see unfolding this week. Well, we've been seeing the results of that survey come through. In addition to that, again, to echo what's been said, almost 80% of the participants fully expect and believe that the use of face masks and additional personal protective equipment will be and should be required when they reopen, and almost 60% of them are now actually concerned about the cost and the sourcing of that PPE to be able to you know, protect the safety of their teams as well as their customers when they reopen, which is a difficult statistic. Many of them have donated their PPE at the beginning of this pandemic, and are now in situations where they're thinking about reopening and they just don't have the personal protective equipment that they would have had originally, never mind with a view of the additional PPE, you know, that will be required going forward. So we really recognise that spa and wellness services are vital to our local communities, and they'll be really key beyond the pandemic. So, you know, to support the physical, emotional, mental health of everyone within our communities and the wider nation, there's a real need here for us to make sure that we can support our communities, and I know that is exactly said for the salons as much as it is for the spas as well. So I think for us, what we would like from the government would be to, you know, make sure that we are included within a clear exit plan, and that's looking at the inclusion of spas, salons, wellness centres and gyms, with clear guidance on the reopening of pools and thermal facilities, clarity on the use of personal protective equipment and social distancing measures that we'll use within our operations to maintain that public safety, and also for us to maintain, you know, the safety and the well-being of our teams, which, you know, we've got an incredibly skilled workforce that has been, you know, a recruitment challenge that we've had across many areas of our sector, and we can't afford to lose any more great, fantastic skilled people from our workforce. So we've got to stand up and look after them now, and look after the wider consumer as they return back to our spas and start to build that consumer confidence. And we can only truly do that by having one consistent approach across all of our industry, and that's a really key thing for me, that we all really work together as one voice from this, and we've got a consistent message, and it has to be with some really clear guidelines. I think, as Lesley said, you know, people want rules here. We have to have something specific that every single spa, beauty, wellness business, whether they be self-employed or, you know, salon, spa, we need rules that we're all following, so that we've got that consistent message out to the consumer to say, we are safe, we welcome you back, we're doing everything that we've always done and more to keep you and our team safe. And that's a real factor for me that I think we hugely need to address. And the financial concerns, of course. So, you know, again, extending the coronavirus job retention scheme, we believe at least until October, but as for as long as necessary, to ensure that the businesses have got continued support while social distancing measures progress. And also, you know, looking at allowing for notice before the Irish job retention scheme ends, so that we can ensure that we've got the, you know, the opportunity and the time to make the correct staffing decisions with confidence to protect that skilled workforce that we so desperately cannot afford to lose right now. And then, yeah, the same as what's been said, you know, partial furlough, some kind of a scheme, salary support scheme for the salons, spas, wellness sector, while social distancing rules apply. This recovery is, you know, people, as you said, Caroline, are desperate to get back into their local spas and salons, have their treatments and re-engage. And, you know, we've had a period of time with, you know, lack of the power of touch, and we all know how powerful that is, but people really want to get back. But there's also a lot of hesitancy and nervousness around people returning to us, and we've got to have that really clear message that we've always hidden behind the scenes the fantastic work that we do. All our cleaning standards and all the things that we do are all hidden in a prep room back of house, because we don't show the guests that front of house. And it's our time to stand forward and say, you know, these are the things that we already do and we do well, but bring it front of house and make sure that the industry and the consumer know this is what we do. These are the extra things that the government have put in, you know, for us to follow, and that's what we're going to do. And we're safe, and we're ready to welcome you back with open arms and help you all to learn to be well and stay well.
Yeah, it's one of those times when I wish I'd married a hairdresser.
I've been lucky enough to do my own roots.
I'm going to welcome John McNally, who I can see has just joined us, who's also a Scottish MP. Can I ask everyone, if you're not speaking, to put your mics on, because we get a bit of disturbance behind, so that'd be really good if you can do that. And we're going to go to Lisa.
I have a beautifully worded document that everybody has just reiterated exactly what is on there. So
it means we joined up.
So yeah, so without wanting to repeat, I echo everything that everybody has said. It is all on here and more. Just from a beauty suppliers perspective, we have 5,000 customer accounts, and they range from the large spas like Champneys, Ragdale Hall and Sockville House. We have groups like Centre Parks, Nuffield and David Lloyd, as well as high street salons, home-based salons and mobile therapists. And we've been speaking extensively on Zoom meetings to a lot of them over the past couple of weeks. And the one thing that is coming through loud and clear is that they do want clarity on what they can and can't do, what they should and shouldn't do. And they're looking to their brand suppliers to be able to provide that. Looking at manicure routine, should they be using disposable nail files now? Should they be using a machine that does their cuticles, or should they be using orange wood sticks that they throw away? They're very much looking at the nitty-gritty of what that would look like and what they can cope with, the, you know, having X number of people in the salon completing an online consultation form, but they really want to be able to train their therapists to have safe practices. And where we don't want to provide what we think, we want to provide what we believe is backed by scientific evidence and is true, because we've got the safety of our customers and our therapists to be thinking of here. And talking to the salon owners, a lot of them, their staff are very anxious about returning. They really want to return, but they've been on lockdown and they're very much want to, it's like putting their health and safety in our hands at a completely different level to what they have before. And that's why I just think it's absolutely key that we're all the way along, it's been backed by scientific evidence, and I think the protocols need to have that same level of backing. You know, we've got people asking for manicure screens. That's great. Acrylic's gone through the roof, the price of acrylic, so that, but how would you clean it? What would it look like? Do we need edges on them so that you're completely protected? What masks? I don't want to repeat what everybody else has already said, but they're certainly looking to the brand suppliers to be able to provide that information. And as I said, and being anxious about returning to work and our duty of care for them when they do. And really, that's all that I've got, other than what everybody else has said. As I said, I don't want to waste time.
Lovely. Thanks, Lisa. Right, Kerry Stewart.
Hi. Yeah, not to repeat what everybody else has said, because everybody's done a great job, but I guess I come from a slightly different perspective because my salon is smaller. We're a team of 4, and also I'm hands-on 4 days a week myself, so I run a mixed column of hair, beauty and aesthetics. So the close down of my business, the last week we were in was really fearful, and every client you came into contact with, you were thinking, is this the one that's going to pass my team or I COVID? So I think going back to work, I want to go back to work, and I'd like to go back as soon as possible on one level, because I miss that interaction with people and my job. However, I want to return in a safe environment, and I don't want there to be a fear factor of my staff feeling fearful, me feeling fearful, or my clients feeling fearful of coming into my business. So just to go through the list of what I had written, which a lot of people covered, but there needs to be a clear and concise timeline. My salon is small, so social distancing will be really challenging. I have already started to review my salon layout, my operational hours, my shift patterns of my staff, because I envision that I will only be able to have 2 of us in there working at one time, which obviously from a cost point of view is going to extend all of my overheads. There needs to be clear guidance on PPE, on operation hours, on what the actual infection control, what limited treatments. Am I going to be able to microblow somebody's eyebrows in August, or am I not going to be able to do somebody's face until next year? And clear safety precautions. PPE, we donated, as did every other salon in the town, our PPE to the NHS. Looking at purchasing again to pre-open, and I'm already looking at extensive bills of £600-700 to see me through what I see a 2-week period. Do I pass that cost onto my clients? Where do I source it from? I think there needs to be a clear government support line to supply chain and where we go with that. Classification again. We got a little bit lost on the close down of where we sat, were we in wellness, were we a hair salon, which part we are. I fall into all of them, but never does it actually say beauty salons and aesthetic clinics. So it needs to be very clear, and no flexibility. Again, the black market, we can already see. I went into my salon yesterday and there's voicemails asking me, can I have my hair cut? I'd never do that. I've had, messages on Facebook, and people are being offered a lot of money to trade, which is unacceptable, but it's there. So it needs to be a regulation that is manned and policed in some way, and everybody has to do it, because if I play my part and follow PPE and the salon down the road doesn't, my clients will feel more comfortable not wearing a mask because it's not nice, and they may go down the road. Positive support, I've been lucky, my staff are obviously furloughed, and we have received grants which have been great, but that's not going to last forever. Eventually those funds will run out, and like everybody else has said, it needs to be ongoing, it needs to be reviewed. The bounce back loans are great, but it's extending your liability again. 12 months interest free, but 12 months will go so fast. VAT, a total review of VAT, I think Ian mentioned that already. Business rates relief going on forward. And one thing that I did think of is, for me myself, I have 2 very young children, and I rely on an elderly relative to look after those. If that's not recommended for over 65s to look after children anymore, then affordable childcare for those females coming back to our industry that will then be faced with thousands of pounds. Then you get into that: is it worth going back to work for your employees? And mental health and well-being, I've missed my treatments dramatically, and I'm sure everybody else has, dying for hair colours and massages. But I also have a young team that's got some vulnerable staff members, and their health, well-being and mental health, I'm sure has been hugely affected, and we're going to need support on that going back in, whether that be access to online services for mental health, etc. And I think that covers everything that I've popped on there.
That's fine.
Break it down.
Thank you so much. Before we hand over to parliamentary colleagues to ask questions, Jo, did you want to say anything? Jo Jones?
I think it would be good. I think I mainly come from the product sector, and I know that in beauty, that actually products and retail are booming and doing incredibly well. Is there any, my question, I don't know if this is possible or not, but is it possible to also draw support from that side of the industry to support the service industry, because we're all under one banner, and you know, we're all part of one industry, and obviously services need the support at the moment, and the other side of the business is doing incredibly well. So I don't know if there's a way that part of the campaigning could bring in help from that side, or support, or, you know, don't know, just putting.
No, that's a good point, and that's something we maybe explore offline, Joe, with Catherine, and see where we can go with that. Well, thank you all for your presentations. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to start with Judith as my co-chair, and if we just get some questions going, and then at the end of the questions, we'll come up with a way of I mean, I really, really want to help you. And the only reason we started this is because Joe Jones was telling me about the wonderful work the industry does. And then the lovely Lesley told us what the lovely industry does. And Caroline told us what the industry does. And we never envisaged that we were going to be talking about this when we set up the APPG. It was for completely different reasons. But I think what today has really shown me is that you could well become an industry in crisis, and we wanted to talk about you being an industry that was participating and contributing so much along the mental health, along the economy, along training and education, along everything else you do wonderful. And it just seems to me that we've got a bit of the coin has flipped here. So I'm going to pass over to Judith to ask some questions, and then I'll go to Nick after Judith.
Thanks, Caroline, and hello everybody. It's lovely to see some friendly faces, even if it's not in the flesh. I mean, I'd just like to make one comment first of all before I ask my question, which is, I think the message that I've heard loud and clear, and I'm sure that others on this call have heard loud and clear, is the need for clarity and rules rather than people having to use their individual judgments. There's so many questions that I do want to ask. I think we'll probably be here all day if I did. I mean, I would like to know what the industry's view is on these kind of black market people who are selling the services, whether it be hairdressers or beauty. We've heard reports in the Times by people cutting people's hair with gloves on in the back garden and things like that. I mean, I would like to hear the view of the industry on that. Also, we've heard about the short-term impact on the industry. I just wondered, going forward, and I know this is a bit rich in a way because you're crying out for clarity, what you think the medium to long-term impacts will be as well on the industry.
Who wants to answer that?
I can. I don't
okay,
mind.
Go on, Caroline.
So I actually was part of 2 online forums today with quite a number of hair and beauty salons that were really talking about this, and a lot of them were saying that, you know, they know salons that, you know, they're letting people in the back doors and the stuff, and what can we do? You know, what if we know this? And I said, well, you know, as far as I'm concerned, they're breaking the law. And if you break the law, you go to the police and you inform the police. And there's been a lot of things in papers where, you know, there's been certain salons that have been closed down because the police have had to come in. One of this morning's meetings, I actually had a lady that said a mobile therapist had decided to go into a care home. One of the clients had actually phoned to do a treatment, absolutely desperate. And they'd actually turned up at the front door to be able to do the treatment, which was unbelievable. Do you know what I mean? As part of that, I think there needs to be a system, you know, that majority of the salons and mobile, you know, hairdressers, therapists, nail technicians are all, you know, sticking to the rules. It's about keeping people safe. And I think there's people that, you know, are flaunting, you know, the rules. You know, they need to be, you know, reprimanded on doing that, you know, because it's not their own health that they're putting at risk, but it's all the other people, and it's that chain reaction going forward.
Yeah, I suppose what you're saying then, Caroline, is that if one salon sees another salon doing it, that it's a domino effect, or could possibly be a domino effect.
It is. I mean, myself, I've not done hair and beauty for 10 years, and yet I have somebody approach me through Facebook saying, have you started doing this again? And it was like, no, you know, everybody's in the same boat. you know, a couple more weeks, you know, will support, you know, our, you know, industry going forward. Everybody has to stick to the same rules.
There's also, Caroline, there's the implication of insurance as well, that if we've been told not to operate and then we do, that is going to potentially make your policy null and void. So that's another issue. But I've heard from a few people today as well about who do they speak to if a salon is opening unlawfully. And I think that this girl had went to check out her salon, like everyone's doing, salon owners, to make sure the salons are okay. She noticed that on her way past there was a nail salon with 3 people in, with 3 customers, no social distancing. She went to the police and the police said to her, well, that's not to do with us, you just go to the council with that. So there's not those clear defined guidelines either. And I think everyone will agree that follows social media and follows it. The people who are staying at home are getting really, really annoyed with the people that are not, because I think the longer it's going on, that they're kind of giving up on their livelihood for the kind of the good of it all, and they just feel, well, this is not fair. You know, I'm not earning any money, I'm not getting any help, but I'm listening and doing out, kind of, so to speak. And these people are out doing it. So if we could have, like, as I say, I think the beauty industry is going to be a bit longer than the normal people in or other industries, sorry, for return to work. That if we have got some sort of, I don't know whether it's whistleblowing or something that people can report to and something is actually done about it, because we're never going to reduce these numbers if we do not actually do something about these people flouting the rules.
A little bit like prohibition, isn't it? After the Wall Street crash, it's beginning to feel that hairdressing is the new undercover gin bar. Nick, I like gin as well, by the way. Nick Smith, unmute yourself, love. It's your big moment to shine. He takes his time.
I'll try my best. So, do you know what? There was a lot to take in there. And so my couple of takeaways were people afraid to go back to work, concerns about the medium-term impact of the pandemic on their businesses. I've got a comment about Ian's offer of helping out key workers in the first instance, but saying, you know, can there be a soft opening across the country as we all look at me, are desperate for haircuts, or, you know, got all of that. I've got 2 questions, I think. First of all, there was lots of concerns about PPE, and the need for straightforwardness in terms of guidance. But I didn't come away with the specific asks that you had about that. And I got the impression it was a big issue, but I think it would help if you were clear about what you want from government in terms of health and safety requirements, quality, and how you deal with this big issue. So if you can ponder that and come back with specific requests that you'd like to ask of government. What I would say is, someone said earlier on that they've written to the MP and heard nothing back yet. I think that's generally because we're all writing to government, and government is sort of getting clogged now and sort of slow to respond because of the number of requests it's got. And then I've got finally, it seems to me that this is going to be particularly hard for city centre salons and premises if lots of office workers work from home. Does that mean, do you think that sort of town and neighbourhood salons will see an uptick in their businesses?
Right, Kerry, did you want to answer that?
Sure. Let's start with the PPE guidance. I think we need a list of exactly what items of PPE we will be required to use. So if we have a face mask, do we need a visor as well? Is that going to be treatment led? So if you're doing a manicure, can you only wear a mask? If you're doing microblading, will you need a visor and a mask? So the higher the risk of treatment, will we need to adjust the PPE? So it's a clear guidance on the exact items we will be required to use.
So that's a guidance and a consultation issue, isn't it? So you need to be able to know that somebody's looking at your industry and what you need. what the proximity of those treatments are, and making a value judgment about what kind of treatments you as an industry need. Yeah, that makes sense. Nick, was there anything else question-wise that nobody's answered?
Well, do you know, on that, I think it's probably best if the industry suggests a way forward on this, rather than waiting, because it might have to wait a long time to come back to it, and you'll have good internal mechanisms already. So I think the best in your industry needs to get together, come up with a as I'm sure you would, a thoughtful suggestion, and get that double checked, rather than waiting for the tablets of stone from government to arrive from up high, because government is getting clogged, and seems to me you need quick response rather than delayed reaction here.
Yeah,
and we have, yeah.
Go on, Caroline.
Sorry, we pulled together guidelines on all the various different treatments, and we've given this to the government, so they've got clear of what we thought. The only thing we need from them is, if we have masks, what type of grade of masks do we need? Do we need medical grade, or can we just have cloth masks? We know the PPE that we need as part of that, and it's just various different specifics that we really need to know.
You're echoing there, Caroline. I think because you're on two screens.
Oh, let me just.
Okay, Lisa, you were the next one. Is there anything you want to ask?
Sorry, I didn't hear you there.
Lisa Cameron, do you want to ask anything?
Yeah, thank you. I wasn't sure we've got two Lisas.
Can you be on mute?
Can you hear me? Yeah? Can you hear me? Yeah, good. Okay, thank you. I was wanting to ask about nail bars and the implications for nail bars going forward over the longer term. And we're aware from some of the research that's been done that some of the people who work in nail bars have employment that's not the most secure, and perhaps you know, there's been sort of aspersions regarding sort of modern day slavery aspects as well in relation to some people who work in nail bars, and I'm just wondering what the sort of views from the field, so to speak, are in relation to what's happening in the nail bar field, really. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Lisa. Does anybody want to come back on that? Nobody wants to come back on that?
Yeah, I can do. I mean, we operate nail bars within John Lewis, and obviously there are the cheaper nail bars that are operating on the high street. We would like to see that everybody has to stick to exactly the same guidelines. They are very busy places, there are only salons on the high street. And, you know, with social distancing, as I was saying about manicure screens, I think we need to make sure that the staff and the clients are adequately protected, and that the rules that are put in place for salons reopening are followed, the guidelines are followed and enforced by them as well. As someone else alluded to the fact that when people do go back to work, is which treatments are people going to be able to perform? I would imagine that nails are probably going to be one of the easier ones to start with. But certainly a lot of our customers are asking, are they going to be able to offer a full treatment menu? Or are they going to have a phased approach? So I definitely think that there needs to be something enforceable to ensure that across all sectors of the beauty industry, everyone is following the same.
Yeah, the modern slavery thing is something that's always worried me, especially, and I'm not being derogatory to anybody here, but I know that in a lot of places we'll see the little Chinese shop opens up, and they won't take cards, it's got to be cash, they will have masks on, very often they will foil over the windows upstairs, and I think that is a bigger issue now than ever, and that's because it's a Home Office issue. I think we should be looking to getting some guidance from the Home Office as how stringent they're going to be about the opening of these salons, that they have to take
take that on as a policing issue rather than a trading standards issue. I think that's going to be a growing problem. John, did you want to ask any questions? As a hairdresser? You're on mute, John.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Thank you. No, apologies for being late, Caroline.
Can you hide it up, John? You're very quiet.
Am I?
You're all right now.
Thank you. Apologies for being late. Don't want to get excited. But the reason I was held up was because I had another.
We can't hear you, John.
I had another phone call from a hairdresser who had noticed a barber shop opening up behind closed doors. I was on a call with her for a while. Can you hear me? It's okay.
Right, try it now, John.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I was held up with a call from a hairdresser in salon who noticed there was a hair.
He's lost you again.
That's okay. I'll leave it later.
Email me, John, and we'll sort it out. We'll take it from there. Okay, has anyone else got any questions or any comments before we sort of wrap this up? Yeah, put it in the chat, John.
If I could just add something just in relation to what Lisa's just said then, as we've been hosting bi-weekly assemblies and Zoom calls for our members, and a huge concern across the spa sector for sure is how we'll reopen with regards to will it need to be phased, because many of our businesses are housed within hospitality, within hotels, and it's, you know, if the exit plan is that, you know, hotels will reopen here but actually spa is somewhere else, then we need that to be really clear from how that will operate. And also, you know, will it need to be phased? Like, will our pools and thermal areas be able to open safely, but maybe before we were able to do treatments? And just to mirror what Lisa said, obviously with regards to reducing our treatment menus if necessary, you know, there are lots of considerations. I think specifically they're a little bit different for the spa sector due to how they're tied in largely with the hospitality sector as well, that we do really need to make sure that that is a very, very clear and specific guideline for when they reopen as to how that impacts the spas within the hospitality businesses separately from the other salon and sector.
Judith, do you want to add anything?
Just a huge thank you for everything that you're doing. I know how difficult this is. I suppose the last thing I'd say is, has anybody got any tips on how to make people feel a bit better, because everybody's really fed up. And I think going forward we need to make sure that we help the industry to survive, because I think one of the most shocking things was what Helena said when she said a third of the industry were thinking about or anticipating redundancies. So obviously we're here to help as the group. But, there we go. Goodbye.
Carolyn, is it just worth saying what we'll do after this as a result?
That's what I was just going to come on to now.
Yeah.
And I think we've got some takeaways from this now, and certainly clear guidance. And I'm really concerned with something that Ian said and Lesley mentioned about the bigger firms who've got nothing and can get nothing. I'd really like to know that there's two separate issues here. There's more than two, but in terms of the financial support, I think we need to be looking at how we can do something to support businesses like yours, Ian, who have played a really big role in promoting the industry, but I've not got anything out of it at this time. Because of your success, you've actually, you've been so successful that they don't think they need to help you. I'm really disturbed by that, especially when you think, to use an analogy with the bookmakers, even when the betting shops are having the rates paid, I find it really strange that a hairdresser who's providing a far more valuable service doesn't get their rates paid. So that disturbs me greatly. So I think we need to look at how and where we do it. I think we need to write to the Treasury as a group, asking for some specifics on what they intend or they will possibly do to support your businesses. Then I think we need to think about what we can do to support the smaller businesses who will not be able to get back on track immediately, and how we can work with, like Joe Jones said, maybe with the industry to see if we can maybe get some support there from product manufacturers to support the service deliverers. I think that was a really good idea. So we'll talk to Joe offline about that. And I get the message on the clear guidance and the consultation and the health and safety stuff. I think that's all really important. So we've got this taped. We have 3 people on here who will go through the tape line by line, and they will pull out all the points that's been raised. And what we'll do will probably be a series of letters to different ministers with specific issues. And if there are, in the case of Lesley, you talked about specific companies, I'd be really interested to hear more of Caroline on the care home that had somebody there. That really, really worries me, because that is a really serious issue, that somebody, 1, was prepared and 2, been asked to do that. So if you have got horror stories or you've got good practice, feed them into us so that we can share that, but with a view to definitely writing to ministers and possibly doing some kind of article with maybe one of the Sunday supplement magazines, maybe, I think would be interested in this kind of stuff, life after COVID, for the beauty industry kind of thing. But we can have a think about that, and we will work with you all to make sure that you all get an opportunity to feed into whatever Judith and I do on that. But I think there are several things that we can be doing that should not only support your industry, but actually show up the fact that you have been forgotten once again in this situation and been taken for granted that you were going to bounce back, and you're probably the least likely to bounce back, in all honesty, because of the tactile nature of your skills. Because I, for one, can't wait for you guys to be back working. You will never know how desperate I am. Judith and I actually have long conversations about how desperate we are for you to be all working. And I did suggest there should be a product helpline for people who are not able to actually get out of hairdressers and masseurs at this time. It should be the 5th 999 call that we call up and say, make me feel better because I'm feeling crap at the moment. But seriously, that's the effect you have for me and for people like me and Judith, and well, obviously John has got experience in the industry, and Lisa, but you are very valued by us, and we want to do whatever we can to make sure you, 1, recognise that, and 2, that we do something practical to help you. This is
Caroline, can I just add one thing? Really, just came into my mind just really quickly before we leave.
Get these ideas.
I've just been thinking of it in the background. There's a lot of businesses like Treatwell and Urban, which are these app-based businesses that drive, you know, that you can book services on your phone and whatever, and then you can go find your local hair salon or nail place or whatever. Those brands are really quite cash rich. And I would imagine at the moment that obviously because nobody can do anything, they're paralysed, nobody can go anywhere, it might be worth involving a couple like Lopo, the guy that owns Treatwell, or some other guy the guy that runs Urban, because they will be wanting to get the industry back on its feet as soon as possible, and they have a lot of venture capitalist money behind them, and they have a lot of influence, so it may be worth connecting with them as well at some point soon.
There's a letter winging its way to them, Joe. Details, and Judith and I have already signed it.
Okay.
If I spoke to Jack, who owns Urban, a couple of days ago, he's really keen to support whatever we're doing here with the APPG, certainly from looking at you know, the home sector of our industry and that level of.
Okay, so I wonder, Catherine, is it worth Joe, Judith, you, and those 2 companies having a Zoom call and sort of sharing with them what's been told today and how they could maybe help us to help you guys?
Yeah, I couldn't hear you so well then, but yeah, got the gist of it.
Okay. Okay, well, thank you all so much. We've got a minute over, but thank you so much for coming. Lovely to see you, Lisa, and John. I know you've gone. Please come again. Nick Smith, he's disappeared. Thanks. You know how much Judith and I love seeing you all. And we're off now for the project helpline to get some therapy over the phone. Bye, guys.
Thank you.